Good evening and salutations, everybody. Thank you for once again turning into another episode of RAMBLETECH. Tonight's special episode, we have a old reoccurring guest with Jock joining us again, and we have a very special guest straight out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the host of Battlebound, Tuck Davion.
Howdy, folks. Thank you all so much for having me.
Well, John and I are both big fanboys of your show, so we had to invite you, and actually you asked to be on our show, which I was even more touched by.
Well, I noticed that it's a thing in the community where you'll see people, but they only put themselves over, and I'm like, nah, I'm trying to collaborate with everybody. I want to grow this hobby like everywhere I can, and the best way to do that is to link up with people and make stuff with them.
Makes total sense, right? How else are you supposed to work with like-minded individuals on things, right?
It's just a trend I noticed. I'm trying not to throw incredible amounts of shade today, but yeah, I was just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be insular like that. I want to just hit up everybody and see if I can do something.
So on that note, how did you hear about us?
If you want my honest opinion, I can't remember that far back. If I didn't have the same thing for breakfast every day, I probably couldn't remember that either. So somewhere on Facebook. And it could have been either a post in the Tulsa Battletech League Facebook page. It could have been on Classic Battletech, something like that. But I always say to folks, us small-time creators, we got to stick together. We're all we got. And so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, ooh, let me subscribe. Let me just throw something their way and see if I can't help them in at least that small way. That's probably how it came about.
Yeah, it was probably my fault. I saw that I followed Tuck on YouTube, and then when I saw that he had a Facebook group, I went and joined that. And then he was nice enough to let me smear the whole show all over his channel as well.
Yeah.
So, and that was kind of how it went on. And he I assume you're a subscriber for our show. I know Jock and I are both subscribers of yours. So
Yeah,
that's the one thing with Lee. He's the shill master. He shills everywhere.
Gosh, anymore you got to.
Is there quite a lot of players in Tulsa for BattleTech, or?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting situation that we have here. We have several local groups, mine being one of them. I don't run the largest groups anymore, mainly because I don't have enough time, what with making the show, traveling, this and that. So I tend to have a much smaller group of people I know and trust, and that's where we run campaign games and we test out ideas for the show and things like that. And I'm content to just let everybody else do their own. I have got a certain amount of time, and that's how I'm going to fill it when it comes to playing in the area. But there is a lot of players, and there's several groups.
Pretty lucky here in Calgary that it's been a fairly open community, and it's, all basically one big happy family. We used to have leagues of 20 to 30 or so. Our first season was 18 league members, and we're just getting ready to kick off season 2. And it looks like we're going to be somewhere between 24 and 30 people.
I mean, we used to get, back before the pandemic, we were getting, 15 people or so a week. And it was just all various games that I had written or had tried before or something like that. And then when all that went down, we started trying to slowly pick it back up, but it was difficult for a while.
yeah, we didn't even attempt to start this really during the real lockdowns here in Alberta for League. We started it kind of as things were starting to loosen up, and then I think they tightened up again for a little bit and then loosened up again, and we were able to still play. But yeah, that was the big thing, is there was 2 years there mostly just talking and planning it more than anything for those 2 years.
Yeah, early 2020, I started getting it together because a couple of people that I knew from Warhammer, like Aaron and Mackenzie, were getting into it, and Justin. And I was like, okay, well, it's a good time to get BattleTech going again. And I've got some time because nothing's happening due to all the lockdowns. So I don't have to be out doing games. I can start getting things prepped up to start running games.
Sure.
Yeah, and as other than being the league shitposter supreme, demo agent, I just ran first event into 2.5 years.
Oh, nice.
Just a couple weeks ago. So I'm glad everything's really starting to open up again, and the only can only go up from here.
I was actually kind of having that discussion with people right about the time we started this show, because they were asking, you want to start traveling now? Because this was like the beginning of 2020. And I was just like, when else am I going to do it? I can't sit on my hands. I can't sit on this idea. The money won't be there forever. And so, because I had savings up until that point. And so we just decided to do it anyway. And we were kind of lucky to come across several stores that would still have us actually inside and let us play in.
Yeah, we've been really lucky with our venue as well. I don't know what they were doing during the real deep portions of the lockdown, but they were one of the stores that were doing a very good job of following the protocols, and they were allowed to reopen on limited basis. So Brett was able to get us in there, and things worked out really well, actually.
That's cool. I just got back from Portland not long ago, and so many stores in that area still hadn't reinstituted in-store gaming. We actually got really lucky to find a shop that would let us play, and it was with much begging and much, soft shoeing that we were able to secure it. And that was just recently.
Yeah, we got a couple of major gaming stores here. Century Box killed their gaming for most of the pandemic, and they only recently opened it, I think, like 3 months ago to limited. Like, book a table and you can have that, and we're not doing open gaming or anything like that. That only
Right.
just came back, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the box just opened up the open gaming a couple of weeks ago.
I just know we were incredibly lucky to find the shop that we did, and they had gotten a huge order that day, and we just begged them essentially, and they were very kind. And I said, "Just give me 3 hours, I can do this." And lo and behold, we got out of there in just about that time.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky up here for gaming spaces, really, when it comes down to it, for the amount of game stores we have.
And that they're sizable enough to actually have gaming areas as well.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple, nothing against it, Hobbs Hobby out in Strathmore, but their gaming space is roughly like 2 tables. It's a little bit more than that, but it's basically 2 tables. So whereas we play out of the Ogre's Den, and it has hosted 50-player Warhammer games where you're each playing on a 4x6 table. So it is a massive gaming area with lots of support, and the crew that runs that store is just awesome and really supportive for us. Which takes me to my next point, Tuck. Have you always gamed out of the same store, or have you moved around a bit?
You mean while I've lived here in Tulsa, or
Yes.
just period? Okay,
Well, I assume that you
'cause
haven't, been in the
I-
same spot exactly ever.
right. Because I was like, I'm not actually from here. No, I first started gaming at a store called Wizards Asylum, but there wasn't a lot of support there, and it was kind of hard to find table space sometimes. So I bounced around to a couple of different stores until I ended up going to Dice Addiction and Top Deck, which is where I play the vast majority of the time. Every other Thursday, it's at Dice Addiction, and sometimes every other Friday, it's at Top Deck. So those are the two that I've gravitated to. But it didn't always start that way.
You mentioned they both have a lot of support. Is that in product support and staffing support, or running events, or
Just
Just in
down to
general.
host BattleTech, like, not saying, well, okay, if you can find table space, you can play. It's, oh yeah, sure, we'll get you a table if you come in and you have a game that you want to run, we'll do it. And they have BattleTech stuff on the shelf. So they have support for the product. They have support for the people that are coming in to run the games. And that was it.
I found that made a huge effort. I mean, with the Den, as soon as I told them that I wanted to start running, they were like, okay, so what day do you want? And they're like, okay, so these are the days that we have other events. If you want to run on those events, we'll find you time, but it might be crowded and loud and whatnot. And I was like, well, Sundays work. And they're like, there's nothing really going on Sunday. You have as much space and tables as you need, and we will tell other people that they can come in and do what they need to. But this is your dedicated space and time, and it is whatever you need it to be.
Yeah, that's what they did at Dice Addiction, and I was stoked with it. So we've been there for years. I started playing regularly there probably in 2015, 2016, something like that. Long time.
As a one question I've got, you talked about the product support. How, with the Catalyst stuff itself, it's obviously really good just from what I've seen online and things like that. When it comes to the Iron Wind stuff, how good is that support down south of the border there?
We don't have anybody here in town that I know that has IWM stuff on the shelf anymore. It's all just the plastic stuff. And the thing is if I were to take a gander at why they might do that, it's because the Lance packs are so much cheaper and they can make money on them versus not knowing if X model or Y model or Z model will sell if they get it. These things are selling like hotcakes, so they'll go with those. That's just what I would do if it were me. So yeah, there's no metal on the shelf down here anywhere.
Hey, and listen, I'll freely admit it. The new plastic stuff coming out in those Lance packs is phenomenal quality.
Oh yeah,
compared
amazing.
to some of those old molds, right? Like,
sure.
I'm still a pewter snob, though. I still really enjoy the pewter. I even have some of the old lead stuff. I just preferred that stuff, just how it felt when you were playing it on the table. Though one of our league members, he's come up with porcelain hexes that he puts on the bottom of them, which gives even the Plastek that little bit of heft.
Sure.
I also remember back in the day, Plastek, because the maps were never laid perfectly flat, if you were anywhere near those center creases, you just could not get them to stay still.
Sure.
So that was part of the reason why I became a pewter snob, and for the longest time, that was pretty much all that was available.
Yeah, I'll take the new plastic Thunderbolt over the 17 pieces re-seen pewter one. Thanks, no thanks.
I had the One Piece
just...
Marauder, or not the One Piece Marauder, sorry, the One Piece Battlemaster, right? Like, those are the ones I really liked, including the details on those weren't horrible, but the new plastic stuff is way better.
I do miss the scales on the Battlemaster, the Atlas, the Zeus, Dragon.
the little extra things, right? The scales with like a little heart in it, or yeah.
It's reminded me of Captain America with the scales,
All right, well, I'm going to throw this one at Lee first, since it was my idea to bring back the league, but then it was his idea to try and get a podcast to going supporting it. So, Lee, why do you do what we do? Why do you do the podcast?
Oh, because I'm an absolute sucker for punishment. And I like hearing from you every couple of hours, Brett. No, actually, the reason why I did it originally was I wanted to provide, back in the old league, we had a website. And on that website, we used to do a weekly or bi-weekly written radio show. So it would be an interview with the commissioner would do an interview with a player, and he would totally muck it up intentionally. Like, he'd ask serious questions, and then when he would type it up, he would do it as jokes, right? And he'd change their answers, all that kind of stuff, and make it funny. And I thought, you know what, this was just a nice little extra detail that the players got to enjoy, and it cost nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try a radio show. Let's try a podcast. And I keep getting it wrong. We're not doing a podcast. We're doing a YouTube show, because podcasts are supposed to be radio. But either way, I call it a podcast. And I said, oh, let's do a radio show. We'll give all the stats. We'll give all of that stuff. And we'll give our predictions. Okay. So I decided to do that. I put it out, and somebody very early on mentioned, oh, you got to have video. If you're going to be on YouTube, you have to have video. Now, that's not a technical reality, but it was something that they're saying if you want to be successful. I'm like, well, how hard can editing this be? Oh, my word. It is nothing but a horror show when you don't know what you're doing. This is like you were talking earlier with me.
That Lee knew he fucked up.
Sometimes it's a horror show for me, and I kind of know what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, you're self-taught, right? All of this stuff is self-taught. There's so many things that I didn't know at the beginning, like, space buttons and stuff like that, messing other stuff up. It's getting better. Like, our audio is pretty decent. Our video is improving. We're starting to get on webcams, which I'm really enjoying. It requires me to actually know my stuff a little bit better, because I can't edit the audio quite as easily. But it's getting better. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying Jeff's and my collaboration on the Rules Corner. That's been a lot of fun. Because, in fact, we do rewrites constantly of the rules as we're reading them, because we realize they don't read out loud as well as they read in your head.
I know that feel, yes. I've had to do the same thing.
So finally, just to wrap that up real quick, Brett, what you were saying about why I do this, because I wanted to provide more for our community than just a written word, because we have all that on Facebook already. And you guys were silly enough to join me on it, because it could have just been me doing a monologue, and it would have died in a week, and that would have been the end of it.
All right, Jock, as our first special commentator for season 1, why did you join us in doing it?
Oh, going back to what Lee said about the old league and the website. Jacques came about, I wouldn't say purely for shitposting. It was my inspiration for Jacques is Don Cherry. of course, sort of like the color commentator, coach's corner, giving opinions and things like that on throughout the league. And how I came up with the name Jacques Ekem is basically Mecha Jock backwards.
Okay.
That's how I came up with that, because I'm like, okay, it kind of sounds cool. It's got an interesting ring to it. It kind of sounds periphery-ish, so I don't have to say I'm loyal to any one house or anything like that. But when Lee approached me asking me if I wanted to bring Jacques to life, I jumped at the chance because I love doing things like this. I love being on the radio. I love shit posting, causing issues, and just generally being part of the community. As far as BattleTech itself, I gonna show my age here. I got into it in 1988, so I am Force Succession War, Operation Galahad, the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
But that's me, and it has been throughout all my years. I have played this game. I've played many other miniature games for other evil companies that we're not going to mention, and BattleTech has been my constant. It has been my constant where I might step away from it for a couple of years and then I'll jump back into it. Like when I got back into the original league with Lee and with Jeff and with Brett, I hadn't played BattleTech for 7 years. And coming back to it, it was just like riding a bike.
All right, that's going to take us into our new special commentator for this season. Jeff, what about you?
I got asked to do it, and I just agreed. Sucker for punishment, I guess.
All right, I got to let the dog out. That's absolutely normal for our show, as she is in the background. But we're going to kick it to Tuck and let him let us know why you do the podcast, what kicked it off, and spurred this idea to go ahead with Battlebound.
Well, I knew at that point, once I saw the results of the Kickstarter, that there was going to be a massive resurgence for this game. Don't ask me how I knew it. I had a gut feeling, call it what you want to call it. But my main thing at that point was I have to find some way to be a part of this because there isn't going to be another one of these come along in my lifetime. So if I don't join and do something about it now, then when am I going to do it? And that was just the idea. When the idea came to me is, I want to do this drive-ins, diners, and dives things, but for BattleTech. And so it was the massive resurgence. It was all of that stuff. And I'm just like, look, I told you guys before we started recording, I don't want brick and mortar game shops to be a thing of the past. I don't want that to die out because of online retailing and stuff like that. So I wanted to take a camera around and just showcase the local game shops, the brick and mortar guys who are out in the street pounding the pavement every day. They're the guys that are selling us the games and giving us the space to play them, right? So I wanted to put them over. I wanted to get a lot of shine on them. And then I wanted to meet people because, look, we can talk about giant stompy robots. We can talk about, whatever game mechanics that you like versus this other system. But really, at the end of the day, like what makes this game great is the people. And it wouldn't have gone through, the dark ages, as we call it, if there weren't lifers like me, like other people that we know and things like that. And it's cool to tell the stories of the robots, right? But like, I wanted to tell the stories of people whose names aren't written down in books. Because everybody has a story, and whatever that story is, that story should be heard, that story should be told, and you should be on the table duking it out with somebody and, have that epic struggle be broadcast to everybody. So, yeah, I feel like I've gone on a tangent there, but that's why, because it's incredibly emotionally satisfying.
So you rambled a little bit, no tangent.
Yeah, just a bit.
Exactly why we named it this.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll bring us full circle back to me. I was kicking off the league, and Lee said, we need to do something more for the players. And I was like, man, this is so much work already. You want to add on more to that? But we kicked it off, and we started doing it. And he wrote the first script, and then I went, I'm going to take on this, and I'm going to do this. And one of the favorite podcasts that I was listening to at the time was 40K Stats Center, which totally different game, but Val Heffelfinger and Peter the Falcon were running this show where they were like, here is what happened last week. Here is the stats. Here's the games that went down, who won, who lost. And I'm like, bam, that is exactly what we need to do for Uncivil Discourse. We're going to do that as our regular show. And then we started getting a little bit further on and the season ended and we're like, okay, so we need to add in some more content for non-season. And I'm like, well, another show that I like is, Chapter Tactics, where it's a couple of guys sitting around talking about the new codexes that came out, or the new thing that came out, or the new army, the new hotness. And I'm like, we can do that. And that's where Uncivil Discourse came. I'm getting so totally conned up. That's where RAMBLETECH came from. Because it's like, let's just have a bunch of us sit down, grab a topic, mostly gaming related, but not necessarily strictly Battletech, and let's ramble.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's actually been one of the easiest ones to record too. Because if we make a bit of a mistake, well, we were rambling. We just keep going. With the Uncivil Discourse, we had to be a little bit more specific on what we were saying. So that's why we had scripts. Like, we really don't script a whole lot of the RAMBLETECH at all. We just have an idea, kind of throw at it. Brett
I got like a half page of notes and stuff ready for next topic. But other than that, it's pretty much let's go and fly. And when we start to ramble too much, then just drift back onto topic.
You got to stop me at some point because I will.
And Jeff doesn't talk at all until you ask him a direct question. So it's
pretty much. No, unless I have something to add.
With that in mind, Jeff, as the newest member of the podcasting community, what do you think it brings to the community?
Oh God, what does it bring to the community? Them being able to laugh at us? No, brings another side to it. I think a look at other perspectives and opinions on things. Our take on stuff in the league. So just something more for people to listen to and maybe grab some advice from for, skill spends or anything like that,
Now, Tuck, you do both the Tulsa Battletech League and you do the Battlebound podcast. How much overlap do you have with that? Is there lots of people that come up to you talk about one thing or the other thing, or are they usually interested in both?
It's funny. Whenever I meet people here in town that I haven't met before, and it's over a game of BattleTech or something, so I don't have to say anything. Usually, the person I'm playing with will tell them for me, and I wasn't going to say anything, but okay. And they haven't heard of it; they don't know. So, I mean, whenever I go to a new town, now that's another story because that's when the player will want to ask all of these questions because it's kind of a novelty at that point. You know what I'm saying? But really, there's no overlap. I've been recognized one time here in town. Oh, I watched that show. Oh, great. Awesome. So, not much.
Makes all the headaches worth it then, right?
Right? Totally. But, I mean, even so, there's so many things that we've done that I'm just proud of. So, it's 6 one, half dozen the other. I'm still glad I did it.
Yeah, I'm super excited about what we've been doing so far and where we've gotten to. We're a small channel because we weren't planning on getting big to begin with. If we do get big, great. But the fact we've been able to add all of this to the community, we help with the Edmonton Battletech League with giving a little bit of spotlight on them. We do our own thing. We're having a lot of fun with it. I know I am anyway. And we're able to help build the community that we love and really want to be part of and help grow like internationally. Like we've had people who watch from Germany. I was contacted from a guy in Washington who wants to borrow our packet and turn it into their league stuff. And I found out about the Cleveland Battletech League.
Yes,
found out that we share a name. They're also the CBL, so it's been kind of fun with that too.
Oh, funny. That's right. That's righteous. Yeah.
I haven't really had a chance to say it, but I gotta say I'm looking forward to see what you bring to the color commentators chair there, Jeff. I'm really interested to see how well you're going to do this year.
Apparently, I'm doing quite well for picks in the Edmonton League. So,
yeah, we got to record that next one here soon.
Yeah, blind squirrels do find nuts occasionally.
We're not going to talk about.
Well, that's why John had like a 25% success rate last year.
I was going to say, if that was the case, then Lee, you should be having a better success rate.
I apparently picked them by smell. I have no idea how bad I can be at this prediction things.
I told people don't bet on my picks, but if they're going to be dumb enough to do that, they're going to be dumb enough to do that. I told them not to do it.
All right, Lee, what's your biggest challenge with podcasting?
The space bar. No,
my recordings.
Oh, quiet you. My biggest problem that I've been having with recording is the learning curve. there's so much to try to figure out how to do, learning how to use the software properly, learning which software to use and which not to use. And then it's always something new. Like just even recording the screen, the webcam, I'm like, it'll be easy. And then found out the software I've got doesn't record the screen other than what my webcam's showing. So I couldn't have done this Discord thing where all four of us are appearing until I dug further and found out, oh, there's an add-on I can purchase for quarterly payment that will record the screen. I tried a freebie. It was nothing but trouble conflicting with all of our hardware. I just deleted it before we started this because of hardware issues I was having. Or, no, it'd be software issues. So, yeah, it's been the learning curve. That has been the biggest challenge, as well as the amount of flack I get if I don't put it out exactly when they think I should.
So we tried to head that off by saying, production day is the Saturday.
Yeah, the barbarians get pretty uppity if he doesn't send something out on time, don't they?
They really do. But I mean, that's just a subject of success, I guess.
We have fans. I'm happy to hear them. I'm happy to hear their advice. But you know what? That's why I've been trying not to give actual dates and times that things will be released. Because if something comes up in life, I'm the only one doing the producing and editing. There's nobody that can step in for me and do this audio or the video. So they just have to wait.
On that note, we're going to kick it to Tuck next for what his biggest challenge is with producing.
Producing money. That's the biggest challenge. I get a comment at least once a month or something to that effect of, when are you coming to, or when can you be in? And I'm like, okay, well, we have a Patreon. Here's how you sign up. And it's just crickets after that. And I jokingly called season 3 the season that was never supposed to happen, because it wasn't supposed to happen until it did. And it just all kind of coalesced into this one giant, ball of craziness. And we drove all over the West Coast and we came back home. But if it weren't for that, there wouldn't be a season 3. Like, there wouldn't be. And I tell people all the time, here's how to do it. And we're doing okay. Not terribly. We're about 30% funded. Yeah, about that. So that's the biggest, is just being like, hey, well, I want to make more of this stuff, but I can't afford to travel on my own dime anymore. I did that for 2 years. So I'm out of money now. So yeah, I hate how vain that sounds. God.
While we don't travel, we've done our very damnedest to make sure that our show is and our league is revenue neutral. Last year, I think we were $5 in the hole after all said and done for printing and prizing and everything else. And I was pretty damn proud of that. This year, we might be a little bit up, but that just means buying new maps or new other things for it. For me, it's the time. Single parent, working full time, trying to run the league, trying to do the podcasts. We're recording 1 to 2 nights a week. It's a lot easier when we're doing it every Sunday night at a specific time. I found that to be really helpful to try and mitigate that.
Well, it means you can plan things, right? You can plan, you know every week where you're going to be or what you need to do for that Sunday. So
yeah, and I've got the schedule down as Wednesday nights and Sunday nights because of the fact I can get John in on Wednesday night to record Killbox, or I can get you, Jeff, to come join me to do Rules Corner. There's a new show, Rules
Lawyer.
No, we don't need rules lawyers.
I know who we can bring in as guests. But yeah, that kind of stuff. I try to do Wednesday nights. I know that doesn't always work for you, Brett, because of your work schedule and everything like that, which is why we record as late as we do, as well. But yeah, that's what I find for that is the schedule of when we record. Now, when we release, that's completely up in the air because I gotta have time to do it. I work a full-time job. I have 2 children and a wife, and all the other ups and downs that come in life. So yeah, the time and money. Luckily, we haven't had to put a whole lot of money. Like, it's just out of my own pocket for any of the software that we've been paying for, so which isn't been too bad. But if we had to travel, like Edmonton BattleTech League has been asking us a couple of times to come up. Well, not the commissioner exactly, but a few people have brought it up, and all the way from Grand Prairie, which is like a 9-hour drive from where I live, have asked if we're going to come up or do a show for them. I'm like, I'd love to. but I don't have time to drive up there and record a show. And with the Edmonton BattleTech League, I don't actually have recording time to do a full show every 2 weeks for them.
Sure.
We do our best. Like we're trying to do something for Edmonton.
Right. I mean, I feel your pain.
When
Wow.
you do your traveling, just as a personal question, do you do like a 3-stop tour, or is it usually I'm going here and then I'm coming back, and then a month later, 2 weeks later, whatever, I'm going to go to this other place and do that one instead?
Okay, when I first started, it was I'm going to one location and straight home, and it was always in a very close by neighboring state. It wasn't too far. It was someplace I could get within 4 hours. And after that, it started to be like, well, let's plot some stuff that's farther out. And I used to know about this stuff about a month in advance. For season 3, I flew by the seat of my pants and slid in under the door by the skin of my teeth. There was no fucking plan, like at all, period, ever, at any time. Cities were getting added onto this tour while I was driving to another city. So there was, I'm telling you, it was the wildest thing. By the time I got to Portland, I was going to also do Sacramento, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and I thought Dallas. Then that turned into Denison. Then I got back home. And the season finale, which we've already shot, that was St. Louis, and I had all of 2.5 weeks of notice when that was going to happen. And I grabbed somebody that I knew who was going to a concert down there, and we drove our asses there in like one day. And we got this like crazy Airbnb. That was a wild trip. So yeah, season 3 has had no fucking plan, and it is just, it's wild. If that answers your question.
It does, in more detail than I was expecting.
I hold nothing back.
Almost sounds like, Hunter S. Thompson trip or something along those lines.
It, in so many ways, it was. Like, that was.
We were approaching Solaris 7 when the Canopian battle powder hit.
Am I permitted to tell you one story?
Yep, feel free. Shoot.
So, down in Southern California, where a bunch of water got diverted from the Colorado River one year, and took them 2 years to shut it off. And before you knew it, there was an ocean in the middle of the California fucking desert. So real estate people came in, developed the ever-loving snot out of it, but there was no outflow for the water. The only water it was only fed by agricultural runoff. So the salt kept getting higher and higher and higher, and it became unlivable, and people just fucking deserted the place. It's like a modern day Fallout ghost town. Well, I've explored it several times. I was down there because I wanted to get some new shots, because I've been taking a travel vlog this season, which I didn't used to do. And I'm down there with my cameraman, who I need to preface is a germaphobe. He like washes his hands for a solid 4 minutes. Okay. How long? But I have him with me, and I'm just testing the sand, because I know I've been there many times. Sometimes the salt flat will collapse on you, but it doesn't usually go down more than like an inch, so you're fine. And I was warning Drake about it. I see this puddle that's like, I don't know, maybe 50 feet out in front of me, and it looked radioactive, man. I wanted to take some kind of video of this. And I threw some rocks out onto the salt flats, and nothing happened. I said, oh, okay, it must be solid. That's cool. Drake, you stand right here. And I took maybe 2 steps, and this salt flat fucking collapsed. Like, just straight tried to swallow me, okay? I'm waist deep in raw sewage like that. And the first instinct is, of course, to push yourself up, right? Well,
Yeah.
The salt flat collapsed under my hands, and then I pulled my hands out of the sludge, and I am covered in raw sewage in both my arms, man. And I'm reaching out to Drake. Drake isn't going to fucking touch me. He's a germaphobe. So he grabs my shirt. It is this exact shirt that I was wearing. And I said, Drake, that is a wrestling shirt. That will not save my life. This sinkhole has no bottom. I need something else. And I was able to wrestle myself out of that trap. So, yeah, that's a story from when the Southern California desert tried to kill me.
So basically, the NCR actually exists.
So, or the Sarlacc pit, one of those two. Because that's what it felt like. My shoes were gone immediately. They are forever a part of the California desert now, and they will never be seen again.
That's interesting.
Crazy shit happens on these trips. So yeah, there was no plan.
We haven't started our road trip stuff yet. We're still staying pretty close to home.
Well, I tell people, if you want advice, just start really small and just go to like the next, here in the United States, the next state over, then go back home, and eventually you'll branch out from there.
Yeah, to give you the idea, between Calgary and Edmonton, it's almost like going to a different state, but you don't leave the province. It's 300 kilometers. It's
Oh, okay.
multiply that by 1.6, you get miles.
3
and
hours.
about
3 hours driving at highway speeds.
And highway speeds up here is usually about 60, 65.
That's about what it is here. When you get on the interstate, you can go 75, 80. It's like once you get out there.
Or you can be in a rush and drive from Baltimore to Hershey, PA in like no time because you're doing like 95.
Well, that's how it is in California. It's Death Race 3000 out there. If you're on the 405, fuck the speed limit. You're not paying attention to that. You got to pay attention to how fast everybody else is going, because it's like a game of Tetris.
That's just it. Is I got on the highway out there and it was just, or the freeway out there, and it was just keep up with traffic because this is what everybody else is doing.
The most miserable experience I have ever had driving was in Utah, Salt Lake City, because people were doing 60, 75, 60, 72, 63, 74, 58. I'm like, what the hell? And this is all in like 10 minutes. I'm like, people just find a speed and stay with it. Let's get traffic flowing at a decent speed instead of start and stop and start and stop. And it was so frustrating.
Yeah, I've done 405, 101. I've even done the Long Island Expressway, man. Coming back here to Calgary and driving on our major thoroughfare, Deerfoot Trail, that's a breeze. Actually, I got one question for Tuck here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's an easy one. Don't worry about it. You've done like Origins and Dragon Con and all the big cons down there.
I wish I had, but no, I have not been to any of them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that takes care of that question.
Yeah, I have never had the money or the ability, and I sure as hell haven't been invited out there for this show. So, they're on my list of, maybe, hopefully, if I'm lucky before I die, I can check that out. But no, I've never been to any of those. The best I had was the fact that when I was a kid, I lived in the backyard of the San Diego Comic Convention. So I went to the San Diego Comic Con for over a decade. So I got that. That was my big convention experience.
Okay, that takes us into a separate topic. Frontline Gaming is traditionally been a 40K and Warhammer and Games Workshop affiliated tournament company. This year, with the Atlantic City Open, they had a Classic Battletech Championship. Had you heard about that?
I'd heard about it, yes.
I only found it because I was bumping around looking for Las Vegas Open tickets and found this, and I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Now, it looks like it was a 2-day event, and it looks like it was a whole bunch of different scenarios. I haven't seen anything like that since the worldwide events that Catalyst did back in early 2000s, mid 2000s, 2018, I think was the last one. Is there any events like that you're familiar with in your area?
There are things that I don't want to give press to, so I'm not going to do that. But outside of that, what we have some conventions up here, like, for example, SoonerCon. There was one called Maneuvers Con, things like that, where they have events similar to what you're talking about. I hate that answer, but that's the best answer I can give you.
It's better than no answer.
Yeah, we have a few gaming conventions that happen in Calgary, or at least they used to. And at least one I know of up in Edmonton. I don't know if that's just a local put together or if it's like a sponsored thing. But our tournaments have been pretty quiet. Like our agents do a very good job. Thank you, John, for doing what you can do. But it's been, there's nothing large. I think we were talking about traveling in the last RAMBLETECH, and really BattleTech itself is a local game. There isn't a lot of national or international type tournaments that are held. And I'd really like to see that change, but that's community, right? We got to keep growing it so that we start getting recognized as a big community, and then maybe the parent companies will start throwing that kind of stuff around.
The thing that I found most intriguing about that tournament is that they had called it a circuit. And I said, okay, that seems very intentional. That seems to imply that there will be more than one of these, and that they are going to do them perhaps quarterly or some such at some such interval like that. Do you get the same feeling from that?
It does seem that way, right? Like maybe this was just the test one to see the response they get, and leaving themselves open for adding more stuff around the US or North America. Because, like, I'm not familiar with Frontline, Brett. Do they host anything Canada wide, or?
They don't really have anything in Canada yet, but so traditionally only over the last bunch of years, they used to have like the Las Vegas Open and the Bay Area Open, and that was kind of their two key big ones. The last year, they've popped up like to 5. So they've got the Bay Area Open, they've got Cherokee, which is another just huge event that has Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars, Legions, Armada, as well as all the Games Workshop ones. They've got this one, which was Atlantic City. They've got Lone Star Open in Texas. And then there's Las Vegas Open in January of 2023.
And this
So
is
it
all
seems like
BattleTech?
these are all major conventions that they have that host multiple different games.
Okay.
The Atlantic City Open was the first time I've seen them have something for BattleTech. But that just
Yeah.
means that maybe they're looking for people to start running the events, and that they just need interest in it, because they're a very good tournament organizers. When Games Workshop was not supporting any of their product, these guys went and said, we need competitive for this. We're going to run it. So they've been running events for years and years, and it's all 100 people. The Las Vegas Open is going to be 1,000-person 40K tournament. The Age of Sigmar, which is their fantasy version of it, I think that's another 500-person tournament. And I think this Atlantic City Open was like a 200-person top end cap for it.
I seem to recall something along those lines, yes.
And it's not like BattleTech doesn't lend itself to tournament play, right? Like the entire Total Warfare is the tournament rules to play BattleTech. So it's not like it's not a perfect fit for that kind of thing.
I liked the idea of the scenario based instead of just deathmatch. And I find that in several of the tournaments that I've been to anyway, when they say, okay, you get this much battle value or whatever it is, it doesn't become about putting together a force that's decent for that battle value. It becomes, how hard can I tweak this battle value until it screams? How many AC-20s can I get on the board? Things like that. And I just go, I'm not interested in that. So when I saw that they were doing missions, I thought, oh, okay, this looks kind of interesting. And then the fact that they called it a circuit is what really popped me. It was like, are you going to do more than one?
Yeah, this really screamed out to me that it's like, okay, here is our sticking our toes in the water. We will do it this year. We will do it next year at Atlantic City, and we will see if we can get people interested in bringing it to our other events as well. I would love to go down and participate these or run in it, but that's a lot of travel cost, especially when you're crossing a border. Just the fact that North America is so huge, to fly is like $1,500 to get to one of these venues.
Yeah, tickets for flying in North America are ridiculous.
Though it is still cheaper to fly to Hawaii from Calgary than it is to fly to Newfoundland
Oh,
from Calgary.
It's cheaper to fly to London, England from Calgary than it is to fly to Ontario half the time.
And you have to stop over in Ontario.
No. Calgary has direct flights to London Heathrow.
Oh, okay.
No, Air Canada 850.
Yeah, plain boy. That's what you get for having worked at the airport for as many years as you did.
So where I was going with this, though, was if they start doing stuff like this, is that something that you would be interested in traveling to, or maybe being like a shoutcaster for? Because esports seems to be a growing mentality as well. And from our podcast, yours, ours, the couple other ones like Tex that we've seen, people are showing a lot of interest that not necessarily like our league had 18 people last year. We hit 77 subscribers. That's more than 3 times our league members. So we know our not just for our people.
Well, I would like to think that I've got the chops for it. I've done play-by-play in wrestling before. I've done color commentary and that kind of thing. So being in front of a camera, being behind the mic, that's nothing to me. I'm used to it. So I would love another opportunity to ply that trade, especially when it came to BattleTech, be kind of like the guys that used to do it, Brian David Marshall and Rich, I can't remember the other fellow's last name, that used to do for Magic the Gathering. Or those guys that would, another big thing I wanted to do with this show is kind of like replicate the success, if I could, of these guys called Walking the Plains. They went around to different conventions until the mothership finally noticed them and put them on the payroll. So that's where I was going with that.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that in the next couple of years, BattleTech picks up and is at all of these major conventions, and that we really see a whole lot more international notice of it.
I think that BattleTech can be really exciting when you call it like it's a sports entertainment match or something like that. And that's an idea that I'm going to have at some point down the line, is to do it like that, is to like bill it like an old school wrestling match and have 2 guys commentating and have the game playing out like in real time as if it's all happening much faster than it normally would in person. And I think that if they were to incorporate that aspect into a tournament coverage type of thing, I bet you that could be wildly successful. A great format.
Yeah, there's a 40K show out there. It's 40K in 40 minutes. Now, an average game of 40K, for our listeners who don't know, is you played on a 4 foot by 6 foot table. It takes usually between 3 and 4 hours. And these guys they'll play out the game, they'll do the recording, and then they will edit it down and do like podcasting over it. And, and in this turn, these guys are moving up and you can see them cresting the hill and taking it. The autocannons and PPC start flying, mostly hits and misses. And you've done, lost these 3 units. It really makes a play-by-play into far more entertaining, where instead of watching like a 3-hour game, you're like, okay, so here's all the highlight reel.
That's also kind of what I wanted to do. Is originally I wanted to make the battle reports like 8 to 10 minutes, hit the high points, get the heck out of there. But like we were talking about earlier, I used to make them kind of short and I kept getting heat for, well, why don't you make them longer? Well, this would be nice if there was just more of it. So that's how I ended up on the anywhere between 25 and 35 minutes. And I just try to cover the majority of what happened. But what I wanted to do, and this is my point here, is I wanted to tell it like it was a story that actually happened. Like those old battle technology magazines I was showing you before, how it was like this in-universe, like it was a real magazine you could get if you were a mech warrior in, that time frame. And I wanted to tell those stories like it was an actual battle that took place, not just he moved here and they moved there and they shot one another. I wanted to add
put a narrative to it, not just a stats.
I wanted to bring the human aspect to it, because so much of this it's kind of lost in translation, where we sometimes seem to forget that it's humans who are doing all of this crazy stuff. It's just they're inside, one of these.
Well, play-by-play for Leon, I'd be easy. And look, John's on his back again, and Lee's on his face again.
PSRs are not my friend.
Not your friend, not our friend. Lee and I have the dubious distinction of failing PSRs in quads.
John, just rolling dice is not in your favor.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they come up with diceless BattleTech, John's a shoe-in for champion.
No, because the RNG will still get me.
Still find a way. Life finds a way.
All right, so I think we've covered most of everything that we wanted on our show tonight. Because we've got you, and we've covered this with most of our own members before, what is your favorite mech?
Oh gosh, it's always been the Thunderbolt. When you were talking about that a second ago, I was like, yeah, Thunderbolt. And I got nothing against it. It's solid as fuck. It's got a decent selection of weapons, and it's got enough heat sinks to fire most of it. And just because you can't have your cake and eat it too doesn't mean it's bad. It's got great armor. The speed is fine. That shit will take you where you need to go. It's the 82 station wagon that starts up even when it's minus 30 degrees outside. You can always depend on that shit. That's why I like it.
I am kind of thinking if I get Federated Suns in as a faction choice for next season,
Nope.
Thunderbolt and Ace is going to be top of my list, number one choice.
I've always been partial to just the basic one, and maybe the 7M, the one with the ER large laser. That's kind of nice sometimes. And the first time I ever won the Invitational, I did it in the Thunderbolt, the 5SE. Yeah. So Thunderbolt, special place in my heart.
Nice.
You can always tell the people who've been playing for a long time, though. It's always the 30-25, the 30-50 mechs. Right? And it's not grognard. It's just what you played for so long.
Sure.
It's what you got comfortable with. Like, there's lots of really good new machines, but you know what you're comfortable in. Like you said, it's that car that's going to start no matter what the temperature. It's going to take you. It might have more rust than metal, but you know it's going to get there. Where
Sure.
you go and jump in a new vehicle, you don't know.
And there's not as much experience with a lot of those either. They stay with what they know. I've done it, but if I'm usually good up until about 30-70. After that is when I start going, how does that work? I don't know.
Actually,
good.
One of the things that blows my mind about that, there's such a big difference between Alpha Strike mechs and Classic BattleTech.
Yeah.
Like what's good in Classic BattleTech may not function as well in Alpha Strike, and Alpha Strike, because they've condensed it down to such simplified information, you don't know. Like you sit there, oh well, this is the best mech ever, and then you take it onto the BattleTech, the Classic BattleTech, and you find it, oh yeah, this thing just doesn't work.
It's experience. It's like anything. I've told several people that just play with as many varied things as you can, and just so when you see it across the battlefield, you just already know what it is and what it does. Think about it.
All right, John, any final thoughts or questions?
No, I just wanted to thank Tuck very much for coming on with us malcontents up here in Calgary. And it's been
I
a
hope to
pleasure
do it in
talking to you.
person someday. Thank you for having me.
Jeff, any last thoughts and
anything? No, not really. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Tuck. And yeah, hopefully one day we will see you up here, or maybe one day one of us will see you down there,
Right?
or somewhere at a different, event or
Right.
something. So
Looking forward to it.
Lee? You're up.
Well, I'm not first this time. Tuck, yeah, once again, thank you so much, man. I'm really glad to have you here. I enjoy your show. I enjoy the concept. Like I said, your diners, drive-ins, and dives was what sold me on your channel for the first beginning of it. And I followed it, not 100% every episode, but I really do enjoy your work. And thanks for joining us, because it's great to be able to reach across to, even though we're borders are touching, to talk to someone from another country and hear your aspects and your viewpoints of how things work.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
All right, Tuck. Last thoughts, comments, concerns?
No concerns. No, just thank you all so much for having me. I love talking to other people. I love meeting other people, whether it's virtually or in person when we're talking about this game. And thank you for the passion that you guys bring, and thank you for all the work that you do.
All right, so wrapping things up, thank you from all of us. Again, thank you for reaching out to us to join and help give us a little bit more exposure. Thank you for letting us be a part of your world, since you said you're going to host this as well on your site. There's nothing but friendship between everybody, and the people aspect helps everything grow. All rising tides raise all ships, something like that.
Sure. Something like that.
Something like that.
that works together with
Displacement,
everything.
it's a wonderful thing.
Words are hard, but we're glad to have you. We very much appreciate your time, everything that you've done for the hobby, the community, and everything going forward. You have a standing invitation to pop in anytime you want to. You have our address now. And if it ever comes to the point where you want to come to Canada, we hope that we're the place to choose rather than somewhere else.
I guarantee you'll be at the top of the list.
We'll make sure to introduce you to the greatness that is Alberta beef.
All right. I like it.
Well, it's still a thing.
Right.
Before we have to start eating the bugs.
Or each other.
Right. We'll get there.
Yeah,
All right, with
everybody can
that-
still afford things.
With that, thank you everybody for tuning in to another RambleTech. It has been a very special pleasure to have our special guests. We look forward to the community growing in Tulsa, in Alberta, and all around the world. Thank you and have a good night.
Hi, everybody.
Have a good one, folks.
That's a wrap, people.